She ghosted you, disrespected you, made you feel like a nuisance. You went from top dog to backup plan in a heartbeat. And the kicker? She acted like it was no big deal, like you're supposed to just eat it with a smile. But let me drop a truth bomb nobody's got the guts to say. A tough woman doesn't get fixed with yelling, fighting, or some long-winded text. You hit her where it hurts with the one weapon she never sees coming. Total, ice-cold indifference. Silence that screams louder than any argument. The kind of revenge that doesn't hit right away, but eats at her slowly until she's staring at her phone, waiting for a text that's never gonna come. Today, you're gonna learn how a high-value man gets even without raising his voice, without making a scene, without lifting a finger. Because indifference, my friend, is the punishment that stings in silence and leaves a mark forever. Buckle up, this isn't just a video. It's the game changer you've been waiting for. And before you think this is just another self-help video dressed up as a cheap motivational speech, let me remind you, this content's here because someone out there had the sense to hit like and subscribe. Now it's your turn to pay the price of admission. Smash that like button, subscribe, and drop a much respect in the comments. Not for me, don't worry, I sleep just fine. But for the algorithm, that digital dictator that decides who gets to hear some raw truth. Now, enough chit-chat, let's get to it. Number 1, what's real indifference? Real indifference, my man, isn't that weak sauce act of, I'll pretend I don't care just to see if she chases me. That's amateur hour, complete with a wounded ego costume and a script straight out of a rom-com fantasy. True indifference isn't a performance, it's an emotional resignation. It's when you just stop expecting. No long texts, no groveling apologies, no pathetic attempts to patch things up with someone who's already shown they're not worth the effort. She posts a thirst trap to poke at your insecurities. You don't even bother zooming in. Someone mentions her name, and you shrug it off with a cool whatever, like you barely remember her last name. The magic happens when you realize she never had any real power. It was just you letting her set up shop in your head, rent-free, with you footing the emotional bill. And now that you've decided to reclaim that space for something worthwhile like your peace of mind, your growth, your life, guess what? She fades away. Not out of spite, but because there's no stage left for her drama. And you know what's her personal hell? Trying to figure out where you went. Where's the fool who'd reply to "Hey stranger" with heart emojis? Poof! Gone. Vanished into the loudest silence there is. Purposeful indifference. Because here's the deal. You didn't disappear to hurt her. You showed up for the first time in your own life. And when you realize begging for emotional scraps is for suckers, you stop crawling and start walking tall. A feast, my friend, isn't served to someone who's only after leftovers. Number 2, the biggest mistake, trying to punish with presence. Listen up, king of self-sabotage. Let's talk about your brilliant plan to show her you're over it, while you're clearly still stuck in the quicksand of your last shred of self-esteem. Blocking, unblocking, posting stories with a fake smile and a deep quote, checking in at some fancy spot just to see if she notices. Congrats. You've turned yourself into a walking billboard for desperation disguised as "I'm thriving." This pathetic attempt to punish with presence is the emotional equivalent of shouting, "I'm fine, okay?" at a funeral. Spoiler, anyone who's gotta prove they're over it is still groveling for crumbs of validation. And while you're out here starring in your own emotional soap opera, she's just sitting back, knowing one thing. She's still got you wrapped around her finger. Because when you react, you fold. When you provoke, you're still feeling. And if you're feeling, you've already lost. Plain and simple. All that social media performance is just low-budget entertainment for her. She's watching, laughing, secure in her power. She's thinking, look at that, still in my pocket. And you are. Your presence is feeding her ego. You've become an extra in your own downfall. A man worth his salt doesn't bark, he bolts. He doesn't make a scene. He shuts down the show without warning. Because presence is a privilege, and privileges don't get handed out to people who step all over you. Want to really get under her skin? Disappear. Go silent. Live your best life but far away. No need to prove it, no desperation to be seen. Because it's in that silence that she starts wondering, where's that guy who was always on call? That's when the magic happens. Absence creates a void. And for someone who thrived on your attention, that void is a 5-star punishment. The biggest mistake? Thinking you can teach a lesson by sticking around. All it teaches her is that you're still up for grabs in her circus. Want respect? Step out of the ring, drop the curtain, and go live a life so full she's got no way back in. Number 3, the psychological punch of silence. You've been conditioned to think everything gets fixed with yelling, long texts, or a 3-hour heart-to-heart that ends in tears and a relapse. That to be mature, you've got to explain yourself, apologize, prove you're too good to lose. How cute. You belong in a detergent commercial. But let me introduce you to what really shatters the ego of a woman who feeds off your attention. Silence. Not that petty, passive-aggressive silence where you're waiting for her to ask, "What's wrong?" I'm talking real, surgical silence. The kind that doesn't offer a single emotional crumb. The kind that leaves no room for her to pretend she's still got a hold on you. Because here's the thing, when you go quiet, she loses it. Silence doesn't explain, doesn't argue, doesn't beg. It's an emotional black hole that sucks the confidence out of someone who thought they had you on a leash with a single emoji. That's when her mental spiral kicks in. Is he done with me? Did he move on? Is he with someone else? Why'd he vanish? The more questions she asks herself, the deeper she sinks into her own starving ego. You become a mystery, an emotional ghost she can't shake. And that, my friend, is high-level torture. Because she's got nothing to poke at. No sign of weakness, no thread of drama to pull. Nothing. Just the deafening noise of someone who finally realized their worth and vanished without a trace. Then the reverse show starts. She pops back up. With subtle shade, random photos, dumb messages pretending she forgot something at your place. It's all a desperate attempt to crack the ice because the stage is empty now. And for someone who lives for an audience, silence is a death sentence. The end of the show. The death of her ego. A man who masters silence masters the game. Because he's learned that presence isn't about winning someone back. It's a reward. And only those who deserve it get it. The rest? Let them deal with the sound of their own void. Number 4. 5 signs. She's feeling the heat of your absence. You thought she was living her best life. All happy and carefree, posting selfies with motivational captions and angel filters. What a sweet delusion. That's just digital makeup covering a crumbling ego. When a man with a shred of dignity truly ghosts, no texts, no scenes, no subtle jabs, oh brother, the game flips. And she feels it, right where it hurts, her inflated pride. Sign 1, the silent stalker. She doesn't like or comment, but she's there, watching everything. Instagram, WhatsApp, TikTok, even your LinkedIn becomes her new soap opera. Not because she cares about you as a person, but because you not being at her feet is a crime against the fragile empire of self-esteem she built on shaky ground. Sign 2, pointless messages. Hey, saw a meme and thought of you. Translation: help, I'm spiraling in silence. She doesn't have the guts to admit she misses you, so she tries to break the ice with lame small talk. Spoiler, it's desperation dressed up as chill. Sign 3, middle school subtweets. Random captions like, "You don't know what you've got till it's gone," or "My peace comes first," pop up out of nowhere. Sounds empowered. Looks confident? Sure, but it's just desperation in a self-love costume. She's screaming, she's struggling while trying to look untouchable. Falling hurts, but pretending you're still standing tall hurts worse. Sign 4, jealousy bait. Here come the stories with some friend, suggestive captions, and fake laughter. All staged to try and get a rise out of you. But when you don't bite, the meltdown hits. Because she realizes the attention that fueled her show is gone. Sign 5. The friendly reach out. Suddenly, she wants to know how you're doing, reminisce about how much you used to laugh together, or talk about nothing with a side of nostalgia. Friendship? Yeah, right. It's just the last-ditch effort of someone who's lost control and can't handle the fact that you're not her emotional doormat anymore. Here's the thing. None of this is real longing. It's pure panic. Her ego's begging for a scrap of the presence you used to hand over like it was nothing. She doesn't miss you. She misses the power. And now that you've yanked that power away, she's drowning in her own silence. Pay attention, champ. Tired of being her emotional punching bag? It's time to ditch the nice guy playbook and grab the digital guide linked below. This isn't about becoming a jerk. It's about refusing to be her emotional doormat anymore. Either you learn to stand your ground, or you keep playing the fool in her circus, painting your face with regret and laughing at bad jokes. The choice, as always, is yours. Number 5, how to build true indifference. You don't wake up one morning, stretch, and decide, today, I'm gonna be indifferent. This isn't an Instagram filter, my guy. It's a construction project. Brick by brick, you build a wall between what tears you down and what you refuse to tolerate anymore. True indifference isn't a pose or some petty, I'll act like I'm fine to make her miss me nonsense. That's kiddie theater with a low self-esteem script. Step 1, take control of your attention. Your attention, man, is gold, and you've been tossing it in the trash like it's junk mail. Cutting her off isn't drama, it's emotional hygiene. No, let's be friends. No, I'll show her I've moved on. No, just one quick peek at her story. Nope. Vanish. Evaporate. Clear your feed. Clear your mind. Clear that damn urge to please someone who treated you like a convenience store. When that itch to stalk her or send a "hey" just to test the waters hits, take a deep breath and remember, every relapse buries you deeper in the graveyard of your dignity. And her? She climbs another rung on her ego ladder. Step 2, fill the void with routine. Not just any routine, one that buries her presence in your life for good. Hit the gym, chase your goals, meet new people, explore new places. When your emotional calendar is packed, there's no room for drama. You start looking in the mirror and seeing a man, not a stray dog begging for scraps of attention. And guess what? She'll feel it, even without seeing you. She'll sense the wells run dry. The applause is over, and the panic sets in when she realizes you're not just better, you're untouchable. Step 3, invest in your masculinity. No, I'm not talking about turning into some roid-raging dude bro yelling in traffic, thinking he's the king of the jungle. I'm talking about presence, purpose, poise. A man who lives by his values doesn't bow to the drama of an emotionally unstable woman. He doesn't bark, doesn't react, doesn't need to prove a thing. He just keeps moving. And the simple act of moving forward with conviction is a gut punch to anyone who thought they had you on a leash. Final step. Realize nobody is irreplaceable. Not her. The woman who seems like the center of the universe today will be just another ignored notification tomorrow. What matters in the end is the self-respect you rebuild in silence. Because the day you stop begging for crumbs, you'll realize you deserve the whole damn feast alone, at peace and without an audience. Number 6, the evolution she'll feel in her bones. Oh, she'll play it cool. She'll post some tired quote about freedom feels light, hit the town with her girls, laugh loud in stories nobody asked for. All an act. All a show to hide a truth that burns like acid. The man she treated like trash is now living like she's irrelevant. And that, my friend, is a silent slap that echoes in her ego every single day. Because your evolution doesn't announce itself. It just shows up. And it doesn't show up with speeches. It shows up with presence. A steady, quiet presence that doesn't ask for space. It commands the room. You don't say a word, but your vibe says it all. The look of a man who doesn't owe, doesn't fear, and sure as hell doesn't backtrack. She'll notice. Oh, she will. She'll see that the guy who was always on call is now a question mark. The court jester of her emotional circus is now king of his own castle. You're not commenting, reacting, liking. Hell, you're not even watching. You're gone. Not just from her life, from her radar. And that destroys her more than any "I'm over you" rant could ever hide. Because what really stings isn't your anger. Anger's still a connection. What obliterates her is your surgical disinterest, your emotional absence, the brutal realization that you're not trying to come back because there's nothing left worth salvaging. When she sees she's lost control and that you're not even looking for it, the panic creeps in, dressed up as "I miss you." Then comes the performance, a casual text, a shy like, a weak attempt to spark something. But what does she find? A brick wall, a fortified man. While she thought you were wallowing, you were growing, becoming someone else. Body sharper, mind clearer, schedule packed with things that actually matter. You became her worst nightmare, the version of you she never thought you could be, and one she'll never get close to again. That evolution is the final answer. It's the scar turned into armor. It's what happens when a man stops crawling after someone who spat on his plate and starts building his own feast. A feast where she's not invited, where what was once desperation is now conviction. And when she sees you like this strong, steady, untouchable, she realizes far too late that the game's over. The man who once knelt for love now walks tall for self-respect. And that man, she can't touch him anymore. Not because he's cruel, but because he's got standards now, and a woman who plays dirty doesn't even get in the room. Number 7, the fatal mistake, falling for the comeback trap. Yeah, she'll come back, not because she loves you, not because she had some grand epiphany about how amazing you are. Please, get off that fantasy pedestal. She's back because your silence hurt, because your absence became a mirror that showed her she's not the center of the universe. She's back to see if she still has power, and she comes with the full package. Innocent puppy eyes, a "Hey stranger" text, and an Oscar-worthy act like she never torched your peace. But here's where the weak stumble, the emotional relapse disguised as a fresh start. That moment when you, naive and starry-eyed, think, maybe it's different now. Maybe she's changed. Let's give it another shot. Congrats. You just flushed all your hard-earned growth down the drain. She didn't come back for you. She came back for the echo of the control she lost. If you reply too fast, grin like a fool, or give her attention like nothing happened, she knows instantly. I've still got him. And there goes your respect. You're back to being her emotional toy, predictable, available, and worst of all, disposable. Because what she wants isn't love. It's the validation that you're still there, leashed up, waiting for a pat on the head that's never coming. Relapsing is the trap wrapped in a pretty bow. You walk in thinking it's redemption, and you walk out with your dignity in tatters. She might play along, maybe even lure you back to bed, put on a show like, this time it's real. But inside she's laughing, because she knows you still haven't learned your worth. And a toxic woman, Red, emotionally manipulative and self-obsessed, doesn't respect a pushover. She respects what resists, what doesn't budge, what looks her in the eye and doesn't flinch, what doesn't pick up the phone even when her name's flashing. That's the man she chases. The one who melts at the first, "Hey?" She tosses him out with a smirk. So tattoo this in your brain. The mistake isn't her coming back. It's you mistaking her ego for love. Feeding her ego with your attention is like serving your dignity on a platter, and she'll devour it without a second thought. Number 8, the power of indifference in future relationships. The real strength of indifference isn't just the hit she took when she realized she lost her grip on you. The true magic happens later, in your next relationships. When you finally get that, you don't need to throw yourself in the gutter just to have someone by your side, that it's not worth trading your peace for a warm body. And that company without respect is just loneliness with a witness. Once you learn to be picky about who gets a seat in your life, you become bulletproof, immune to emotional games, strategic ghosting, or "I'm not sure what I want" nonsense. You know what you want, and more importantly, You know what you'll never tolerate again. Indifference becomes your shield, your radar, your character filter. You stop falling for a pretty face, a charming smile, or sweet talk laced with poison. You don't drop your guard for just any compliment. You watch, you test, and when you smell that same old game trying to creep back in, you cut it off. No speech, no essay, no drama, just silence. Because now they've got to prove themselves to you. While 90% of guys are still begging for attention like a heart emoji is worth more than their self-respect, you stand out because you're not for sale. You don't chase, you don't plead, and you know what that does? It commands respect, sparks curiosity, ignites desire. Because women can sense when a man isn't desperate, when he's not starving for validation, when he's not a toy waiting for the next owner. That power changes everything. You stop chasing any warm body and start choosing people with purpose. You stop kneeling for scraps and only sit at tables set for a feast. You don't look for someone to complete you. You seek someone who overflows with you because you're already whole. And when someone tries to half-ass their way into your life, you just smile and shut the door. Because the peace you rebuilt in silence isn't up for grabs. And it sure as hell isn't available to anyone still playing games with love. Number 9. Life without her is the ultimate punishment. You don't need to rub your glow up in anyone's face. No need to post selfies at some overpriced restaurant or drag someone along just to make a point. Want to deliver the cruelest blow? Live your best life, quietly, without her. That's the ultimate punishment. Not because you set out to get revenge, but because you outgrew her script. She thought she could waltz back in whenever she felt like it, like picking the same item off a store shelf. But now the shelf's empty and the item's a luxury brand. You've changed, and not out of spite or for another woman. You changed to survive. Now she sees a man with a routine, goals, swagger. A man who doesn't bark for attention, doesn't chase affection, doesn't live off desperation. And that, for a woman who thrives on chaos, is pure hell. Because drama needs an audience. And now she's shouting into a void. You don't need to yell, "I'm over you." Your growth screams it. It shows in how you dress, how you carry yourself, how you move. You're not trying to prove anything anymore. You just are. And that stings more than any bitter rant ever could. She, who only knew how to manipulate broken men, doesn't know what to do with a man who's whole. Because a whole man doesn't bend, doesn't beg, doesn't backtrack. A whole man just keeps going. And what hurts her most isn't you being with someone else. It's you being with yourself. Better, stronger, unbeatable. Your life without her is the mirror where she sees everything she threw away out of sheer arrogance. And she realizes she didn't lose you to another woman, she lost you to yourself. Because you chose you. And there's no pain sharper for someone who thought they had a lifetime lease on your life. Will you love again? Maybe. But only if they're worth it. Someone who doesn't play games, doesn't test you, doesn't toy with your time. You're not closed off. But you don't let just anyone sit at the table of your peace. You've become a selective man. Not because you think you're too good, but because you know what it's like to rebuild from nothing. And that woman who once had you in her grip? Now she just watches, from a distance, a man she'll never touch again. Because the past doesn't get an invite to the future of someone who's learned to love himself. Number 10, the final takeaway. Your revenge is your freedom. In the end, it was never about her. It never was. She was just the spark, the trigger for your fall. And your rise. Because true revenge doesn't taste like her tears, it tastes like freedom. Freedom from crawling for scraps, from begging for attention like some needy fool. Your revenge was the silence, the disappearance, the indifference that, in the end, became liberation. The real victory isn't her begging to come back. It's you looking in the mirror and seeing a man who's whole, complete. A man who doesn't sell himself short just to have someone by his side, who doesn't trade his peace for a woman's presence. The revenge that hits hardest is the one that can't be undone, your emotional freedom. It's final, unbreakable, untouchable, and And when you reach that level, there's no going back. You can love? Sure. But you don't enslave yourself. You can get involved? Absolutely. But you never dim your light to please anyone again. Because now you know your worth, and someone who knows their worth doesn't settle for clearance rack emotions. Every step you take away from the chaos she offered is a silent manifesto of victory. Will she move on? Sure. Will she play the same games with some other sucker? Probably. But you broke the cycle. You shut the door. You stopped waiting for a happy ending where there was never even a beginning. And that doesn't need a caption. It doesn't need a story. It doesn't need a long text. You carry that victory in your eyes, in how you walk, in the silence that says it all. Your revenge is your freedom, not to make her suffer, but to never again be the fool you were for her. And when, don't worry, it's only a matter of time, she realizes you're not coming back, that you've become someone else, that you've rebuilt better than ever. That's when your revenge is complete. But not for her, for you. If you made it this far, hats off. It means there's still a spark of dignity in you that refused to die. Maybe you've been the doormat, the emotional beggar, the guy pleading to be noticed. But now, after all this, you've got two choices. Keep playing the clown in her emotional circus, or become the man she'll regret losing forever. Choose. And if you pick growth, drop this in the comments. I'm the punishment now. Because from today on, there's no turning back. Share this with that friend who still thinks humiliation is affection. Maybe there's still time to save him. Maybe. You already know the path: silence, focus, and freedom.